Davey D for Pacifica hanging out with you and sitting in the room in front of me here in Cleveland, the home of the Republican National Convention, Donald Trump's temporary home, but in the building is Cornel West and Dr. Jill Stein, sitting next to each other, hanging out with each other in Cleveland. I would take it that you're not fans of Donald Trump, you didn't come to see him.
No, this is the city of Gerald Levert. Gerald Levert believed in telling the truth and bearing witness even as a young man, and to be able to keep focused on poor people and working people here and around the world. That's why I'm sitting next to my dear sister Jill Stein, because she's a presidential candidate that comes out of a legacy that says, I want the empowerment of ordinary people.
Jill, what brings you to Cleveland?
Well, we are here as the counter convention. We are here in the spirit of the people. We're here at this AIDS Foundation event, standing up and lifting up this cause of people who have been, outcast and downtrodden and neglected by society, whose needs are so urgent and who are really a symbol of so many people who are locked out of health care, who are locked out of jobs, who are locked out of a decent future. So I'm here to meet with Cornel. I'm here to be a part of the convention today of the oppressed. We're here to assert that the people are alive and well outside of the Republican convention.
Let me ask you this, Cornel. You stomped pretty hard for Bernie Sanders, and many people saw him as the very progressive candidate, somebody who can make things happen. People who I think have, may have a little bit more maturity in their politic, or maybe a little bit more deeper, knew that he would eventually not only endorse Hillary and get behind her, but they knew that the Green Party uncompromisingly had the values that many people had wanted from Jump Street. Why do the dance with Bernie? What was the purpose of that, knowing that eventually he would get behind Hillary?
No, I was convinced that Brother Bernie could win. I thought that the Clinton machine, as corrupt as it is, would run out of gas. And it seemingly hasn't. And therefore, one can see so very clearly, not just the limits of the two-party system, but the ways in which the Republican Party represents the right wing of corporate class, and the Democratic Party represents the centrist wing of the corporate class. And I wanted to be with a candidate and party that was telling the truth to the American people about both their suffering and their capacity to engage in transformation of society and the world. So I have the same principles. I'm the same old school, old-fashioned brother tied to truth and justice. But I'm thoroughly convinced that our only option for me as a human being, and I hope many, many, many others, is to get behind my dear sister Jill Stein and the Green Party, and to look at the connection between environmental justice, racial justice, economic justice, social justice, and also the spiritual issues. What I love about Sister Jill is she has a embrace of the spiritual crisis, that she stands for a deep love and an integrity and a sensitivity, and we're in a spiritual decline in American civilization. We've got to shatter indifference and callousness, and that's what I see in my dear sister, not just in this election, but in her whole life.
Dr. Stein, we talked with you 4 years ago in Charlotte, and we know that the Green Party, nationally speaking, has challenges, even just getting all the names on the ballots, being on having your names on the ballot in all the states. In the 4 years since Charlotte, what has the Green Party done so that you could have more inroads? In my mind, I would have hoped and would have thought that the Green Party would have been Bernie without him. You know what I mean? You would have had that presence, that people would have rallied immediately without having to do a sell, or, they would have just known. So in the 4 years, has the Green Party been able to build? And if so, how do we measure that?
Yes, and the Green Party is very much a part of the social movements. We've been there in the fight against environmental racism, in the fight for Black Lives Matter, in the fight for 15. The Greens are very much a party of social action and of social justice. So We run elections, but that's not all that we do. And, you know, to say that the Green Party has had a hard time, you know, gaining traction and gaining strength, it's important to put that in context, because it's like, you know, compared to what? All the other national parties that are not sponsored by corporations have been wiped off the face of American politics. And there is such a climate of fear campaigning and smear campaigning against independent politics that mere survival has actually been miraculous. And I think it's a tribute to the conviction and the vision of Greens that they haven't given up. They haven't gone home, because there's nowhere to go when you truly see that the crisis is of planetary dimensions, and not only ecological, it is economic, it is social, it is a crisis of peace and democracy and of the spirit. And, you know, Greens sort of see this in its totality. So we haven't gone away. I think that's why we have been the one party that has maintained national resistance. I think we have achieved credibility, so that what Bernie did, he could not have done outside of the Democratic Party. He had the power of the corporate media. He had the power of the Democratic Party's machines. He had the power